Welcome into OutKick the show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you had fantastic weekends. I hope you enjoyed being able to watch the review. If you are a Game of Thrones, a.k.a. House of the Dragon fan, I hope that you guys enjoyed that breakdown last night. I'll be here with you for OutKick the show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then I am out for a week. I'm taking some time off right before all the chaos of football season and the election fully comes to bear. But let's talk about what's going on right now. I got a bunch of stories I'm going to hit. The stock market has tanked. Coaches poll top 25 in college football is out. The House of the Dragons finale. RFK Jr. drops a Bear Cub. Finalist for the VP right now for Kamala Harris. The French pole vaulter and his gigantic penis. Doug Emhoff, Kamala Harris's husband, getting his nanny pregnant. And unfortunately, we have to begin with the stock market tanking, as there is a lot of fear that we are going to potentially enter into a recession. As I am talking to you live right now, a little bit after 3 p.m. on the East Coast, noon on the West Coast, the stock market is down over 1,000 points as I look right now. 1,047 to be exact. NASDAQ down 617 points. That is 3.68% on the NASDAQ, 2.6% down on the Dow, and the S&P 500 down 3%. So I've told you guys this before. I pretty much just buy S&P 500 index funds now. I have a lot of private equity investments as well. Private equity is different than the public markets. You don't have a stock price day to day. You invest in a fund. They typically go out and buy a lot of other companies that are not publicly traded yet. So I do a lot of private equity now. This is what I've learned now that I'm a rich guy. But what stands out to me in general is I would encourage you, I know days like today suck. Don't watch and look at the value of your 401k. Don't watch and look at the value of your retirement accounts, of your savings accounts. I tell you to do the same thing that I do, which is invest in index funds, broad-based stock sample, and know that on average, every 10 years, roughly, your money is going to double. In the midst of that 10 years, however, there are going to be a lot of peaks and there are going to be a lot of valleys. And if you overreact emotionally, you often sell at the bottom and buy at the top because you think that whatever is going well is going to continue to go well, irrational exuberance, and you think that whatever is going poorly is going to continue to go poorly. So my advice to you would be try not to get too wrapped up in the day-to-day vagaries of the stock market. Invest for the long range, 10, 20 years from now. Now, if you're watching me and you're older, I intend probably around the time that I'm 70, if I live that long, to probably dial back a lot of my exposure to the stock market because at that point I might only have 10 years to live or so, and I don't want to get caught in a massive bear market that happens to hit. But anyway, that's years into the future. I'm 45 now. I plan on being heavily invested in the stock market for the next 25, maybe the next 30 years. And I would encourage all of you, certainly if you're in your 20s, certainly if you're younger that, you're in 20s, 30s, and you have spare money, I think the best place you could put it is in the stock market over time. So, however, within that context, I do think it's fair to ask, what has Joe Biden done well economically? And why should his partner, Kamala Harris, be rewarded for it? If you think about it, in January of 2021, when he came into office, we had inflation at 1.4% and mortgage rates were under 3%. At that point in time, we had already come through COVID. We didn't need to add any more federal government spending. What did Joe Biden want to do? He wanted to spend $5 trillion more. Everyone forgets this, but without Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema and basically the entirety of the Republican Party lining up against it, Joe Biden would have taken inflation to 15 or 20% because he was going to throw trillions of dollars on the money pile. Inflation goes from 1.4% to over 9%. What happens? The Fed has to respond to that massive increase in inflation, 2-generation highs, by raising rates rapidly. That means if you're fortunate enough, and I am, to have an under 3% mortgage on your house, which I do, I've never paid it off. Because how often can you borrow money at a 2.5% rate? I've actually got a 15-year mortgage. I think my rate's 2.5%. Why would I ever pay that off when right now mortgage rates are over 7%? Now, I'm going to pay it off because we're building a house and I'm going to move out of here. But a lot of you are what I would say golden handcuffed. That is, you have incredible mortgage rate, but maybe you need to move to a new school because you've had more kids. Maybe your kids have left to go to college and you want to downsize, but it's hard to justify giving up a 2 or 3% mortgage in order to take out a 6 or 7% mortgage. That is massively more money out of your pocket in terms of what your lodging, what your housing expenses are. And so we had basically non-existent inflation. We had nearly free money on being able to borrow money, 15 or 30-year mortgages to be able to buy the home of your dreams. Now we have inflation that has basically taken a huge bite out of everybody's wallet. Most people's wages haven't kept up with the growth of inflation. Simultaneously, we also have mortgage rates that have skyrocketed, but prices haven't come down on homes, which means a huge percentage of the American public, if they didn't take out a mortgage at a 2 or 3% rate, can't afford to buy a home now with 7, 6%, depending on wherever you are, interest rates. What's better? And that doesn't even consider, I'm just talking about the big concepts. Stock market's not up that much. So even rich people have not gotten substantially wealthier with Joe Biden over the course of the last 3 years. Stock market's barely kept up with the rate of inflation as well. Who's doing better? No one. Bidenomics, Kamalanomics, whatever you want to call it, is a complete failure. And as I'm sitting with you talking right now, the stock market is down over 1,000 points, and it continues to absolutely crater. So all of this is an unmitigated disaster. There is no way to defend it, and it is having a substantial bite in all of this in the larger context of what's going on right now. So again, I think it's important to contemplate how all of this is going within the stock market collapse that we are dealing with right now. Again, the Dow now approaching 1,100 points down. I saw this morning, I was watching Stuart Varney, the NASDAQ was down 1,000 points earlier. Now it's down 650 points. This NASDAQ had never been down 1,000 points in the history of the NASDAQ. So all of this, I said EBC. You might have seen me on Harris Faulkner earlier. You might have heard me talking about this during the radio program over last week. This is an economy, a border, a crime election. Don't overthink it. EBC. Trump is better than Kamala on the economy, on the border, and on crime. That's what all of the battleground should be on. Who's better on the economy, border, and crime? Trump is better than Kamala on all three of those issues. Those, to me, are the three most important issues in the country right now. The economy, border, crime. Who do I trust to be better on that over the next 4 years? Donald Trump or Kamala Harris? If the election is on that battlefield, Trump's going to win. And I think Trump needs to do a good job making that the battleground and staying focused on it going forward. Okay. Let me have a little bit of fun here for a sec. Did you guys see the French pole vaulter who wasn't able to clear the pole vault because his gigantic penis knocked the pole down, ironically enough? This video was everywhere. Every guy I know saw this video and was reacting to it. I put up a poll question which may be the best poll question I've ever asked. I said, would you rather win a gold medal in the pole vault or have everyone know that you have a gigantic penis? 65% of you, 35,000, I believe, voters said you would rather everyone know you have a gigantic penis than win a gold medal in the pole vault. Now, the comments, I want to give credit to all of you. The comments in response to the video that I posted and in response to the poll, a lot of times I don't even go read the comments. Most of the time, in fact, they were hysterical. I favorited a lot of them. A lot of you had me belly laughing on Saturday night, reacting to everything that you guys were saying. I think you got it right. I'm with the 65%. Now, not all gold medals are created equal. Noah Lyles is the fastest man on the planet. He won the gold medal by a scintilla. Just an absolute almost non-distance between him and like 3 or 4 other guys, okay? But he won. He's the gold medalist. He's the fastest man on the planet. Gold medal on the 100 meter, okay, that's a big deal. Gold medal fastest swimmer, gold medal women's gymnast. There are certain sports where if you win them, everybody knows who you are. Can you name a pole vaulting medalist in your life? I can't. I can't name a single guy or girl who won a gold medal in the pole vault. All medals aren't created equal. Like if you win a medal in the in men's basketball, you're probably a 100 millionaire playing in the NBA, right? That's a medal I would like to win. That's one I'd like to be the fastest man in the world. I wouldn't mind being the best swimmer. I wouldn't mind being maybe the greatest gymnast. I don't know, although I wouldn't want to be like 5'4" like a lot of those guys are. But other than that, there are some medals you would win where everybody would know you. You could make a lot of money from them, and you could have an incredible life going forward. Nobody cares who wins the pole vault. I actually think this French guy, he's way better off with everybody knowing that he's gone viral for having a gigantic penis than he would have been if he had won the gold medal in the pole vault. I think most of you agree. In fact, 65% of you said that that's the preference you would have. That story to me was a lot of fun, and I think that's probably the best way you could ever lose a gold medal. What happened, Henri? What happened, Thierry? How did you lose the gold medal? This is people asking the French guy. I think his name is Alec. Somebody look up his name. My penis was too big. How did you? Well, my gigantic penis knocked the pole off. There's never been a better way to lose an Olympic medal in the history of the Olympics. A lot of you said, hey, that's why you gave up pole vaulting. You were like, my gigantic penis didn't allow me to ever triumph. I couldn't get over the pole. I said, this is not for me. My pole was too big for the pole. I got to say, Henri, hey, I lost. Let me see what his name actually is. Anthony Amoretti. Anthony Amoretti is the French man who has a gigantic penis that, as a result, could not win an Olympic medal. I would like to be Anthony Amoretti walking back into the Olympic Village after every Olympic female athlete saw my gigantic penis knock the pole off the top there. Every single Olympic Village athlete saw that video. I bet by the time the Olympics are over, every pretty girl in France and most of Europe will have seen that video. I'm just saying, way more people know this dude now than would have ever known it if he won a gold medal. And they know that he lost the medal because his gigantic penis got in the way. I think he's probably going to be okay. I think he's probably going to be. This is helping to rebut the argument that all of France is cowards that lost and gave up the country to the Nazis. Anthony Amoretti is. There's evidently fact checkers now. During the jump, this is according to People. During the jump, Amoretti tries to clear the bar, but first hits it with his shins and then his knees. It's already a failed jump. But to add injury, presumably to insult, Amoretti knocks the bar off fully after he hits it with his crotch. Yeah, I think he would have cleared it if his penis hadn't gotten in the way. Again, if I'm him, I'm sitting around saying, I'm sorry, my gigantic penis cost me the medal, and I might retire. I can't think of a better way to go out. The People.com headline is, no, a French pole vaulter did not lose on an Olympic medal because of his crotch. I think they're lying. That's fake news, in my humble opinion. So anyway, condolences to Anthony Amoretti. I'm sure you can find many women who want to console you over that devastating loss due to your gigantic penis. Speaking of penises, Doug Emhoff, maybe gigantic penises, not literally, but metaphorically, Doug Emhoff is a Jewish lawyer in Los Angeles who has married Kamala Harris. She got married when she was 49 or 50 years old. Emhoff already had 2 kids, a boy and a girl. And he has now gotten divorced from his first wife. Nobody really knew why. The Daily Mail reported that Kamala Harris's husband got divorced from his first wife because he got the nanny pregnant. When he had a 10 and a 5-year-old living in the house, he banged the nanny, he knocked her up, and his wife divorced him, as one might expect would happen. And that is why his first marriage ended. Now, look, I am not the morality police, okay? I tweeted this. I would rather the president screw an intern like Bill Clinton did than the president screw the entire country because he's so bad with the economy like Joe Biden did. You give me a choice between a presidential mistress and a strong economy, or a faithful president and a crap economy. I'm taking mistress and I'm taking strong economy every day. I will sign up for that, all right? I don't really care about your personal peccadillos, your personal proclivities. If you are president, I just want you to perform. And by the way, I've been making this argument for a long time related to sports too. Back when Bobby Petrino got busted having an affair with his coworker, cute blonde girl on the motorcycle, I said I don't care. If Bobby Petrino can win Arkansas an SEC championship, I would let him move into the Kappa Kappa Gamma house and I wouldn't even blink. If the Kappa Kappa Gammas help or the University of Arkansas win the SEC championship because, man, Bobby Petrino just coaches better thanks to getting to live in the sorority house, I'm all for it. That's all I care about. Just win, baby. Don't break the law, but also just win. All right? Feel the same way about politicians in general. My issue with Doug Emhoff, though, is that he has tried to lecture all of us on toxic masculinity and how it's a threat to the country. And what I have seen happen so often is the people who lecture you the most about toxic masculinity are actually the worst when it comes to being toxic themselves. If I had ever gotten a nanny pregnant, you would never hear me come on this show and ever lecture anyone about their moral choices for the rest of my life. I'd be like, you know what? You guys might like listening to me talk about Game of Thrones. You guys might like listening to me talk about sports, politics, whatever else. I'm never lecturing anybody who screws up again because I got my nanny pregnant and I got divorced and I'm a total screw up. I would have to own it. I would have to just wear it. And I certainly wouldn't be going on and doing interviews about toxic masculinity and how awful it is that there are men out there who are toxic. Like, I would have such an alarm bell going off in my head if I were sitting around trying to be the moral police and I had gotten my nanny pregnant that I can't even imagine how that would happen. My point on this is they're trying to say J.D. Vance is weird because he said, hey, let's have as many kids as possible. And meanwhile, Kamala Harris was a side chick for a married man. In her 20s, she banged a 60-year-old, and her husband got the nanny pregnant, and that ended the first marriage. This is not some sort of paragon of moral virtue. So if you're going to argue with me that Trump allegedly banging a porn star 20 years ago is somehow a reflection on his modern day ability to be president now, how is what Kamala Harris's husband did and what Kamala Harris did not a much bigger story, particularly for Kamala, because she got paid $400,000 by her married lover and got her start in politics based on banging her way to the top. Again, you can't argue with me that Trump's peccadillos relating to sex are a hugely important story that we have to cover for 8 years, and that there should be 34 felony charges attached to them, and simultaneously say, oh, what Kamala did and what her husband did is not a big story. You either say, hey, let's just have a battle on policy. Let's talk about who's better for the economy, the border, and crime. We're not going to get caught up in everybody's skeletons in their closet because everybody's got skeletons. Or you say, let's dive into everybody's personal life. Let's dig all into the dirty linen. Let's dig all into those skeletons in the closet, and let's debate and discuss all of them. The standard for a Democrat or Republican politician or an independent politician should all be the same. And right now it isn't. Now, speaking of scandal, there's a new scandal, and I can't believe this is real. RFK Jr. went on with Roseanne Barr and said that there was a bear that got hit in Westchester County, just north of New York City, for those of you who know the geography there. I went to GW. There were a lot of Westchester County kids that went to my college. I'm familiar with the area. I didn't know they had bears, but RFK Jr. says he picked up a bear cub, put it in the trunk of its car after it was dead, intending to eat it. Now, I don't know what the law in New York at the time was, but there is a roadkill law. Where I live, deer get hit all the time. And if somebody's driving along and they're like, oh, you know what? There's a dead deer. I'd like to be able to take that home. I'll go eat this venison. You can grab the deer, put it in the trunk of your car, put it in the back of your pickup truck, and you can go skin it. You can go eat it. Venison's very good. Some of you are hunters. Venison's very good. I've never had bear to my knowledge. Maybe bear's really good too. But he says he then went into Manhattan to go to a dinner, realized that he was going to have to get on an airplane, that he needed to do something with the bear cub, and they decided to make it look like the bear had been hit by a bicycle, and they did it in Central Park, and there was a huge crime scene set up, and everybody's trying to figure out what happened. Now, we just talked about it on Clay and Buck. Buck's like, this is not remotely funny. I thought the reaction is kind of funny. Like, they have a helicopter flying over. They have crime scene tape. They announce that they're going to do a huge investigation. It feels like a frat prank to me, right? Except RFK Jr. was a lot older. He says everybody else was drinking. They decided it was a great idea. He doesn't drink. This is what he says. It feels like a fraternity prank to me. Sometimes fraternity pranks are funny. Well, let's be honest. A lot of time they are. And people can say that even, you're not a fraternity age kid anymore. But to me, this is where RFK Jr.'s third-party candidacy has basically ended. I thought several months ago that RFK Jr. might have a chance to get a Ross Perot-like share of the overall vote. Ross Perot, I believe in 92, got around 19% of the vote with Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush, and Ross Perot running. I thought he might have a significant impact. Increasingly, RFK Jr. is just a carnival sideshow. Nobody's really going to vote for him. 4 or 5%, it still might be important in swing states how many votes he gets, and I tend to think he takes more from Trump than Kamala, but he has no chance of actually mattering in the race now. So what RFK Jr. should do, if he truly cares about the country, is drop out, I think, and endorse Trump, because Trump is more similar, crazily enough, to a lot of what he believes now than Kamala is. But I think he should drop out of the race in general, and just go ahead and announce that he is finished. We'll see whether he's willing to do that, but that is the advice that I would give him as we are continuing to see how this plays out. Now, a couple of other things that are out there. Coaches poll is out. College football season moving closer and closer. Georgia, number 1. Ohio State, number 2. Oregon, 3, if you haven't seen it yet. Texas, 4. Bama, 5. Ole Miss, 6. Notre Dame, 7. Michigan, 8. Penn State, 9. What stands out to me about the top 8 is every school is SEC or Big Ten except for Notre Dame. Then at 10, you have FSU, Missouri, LSU. You finally get a Big 12 school in at Utah at 13, Clemson 14, Tennessee 15, Oklahoma 16. So there are a ton of SEC and Big Ten schools that dominate this list, and I think the SEC and the Big Ten, as they are presently constituted, will dominate overall the playoff 12 as we go forward. What stands out to me, I actually think Tennessee is very underrated at 15. I think they are going to be a solid top 10 team with a chance to make the playoff. I think that Oregon is overrated at 3. New quarterback. I like what Dan Lanning has done, but you're entering the Big Ten. Quality of competition is going to be higher than you're used to. If I have to play the overrated and underrated game, I would go Oregon overrated, Tennessee underrated as I look at the top 15-ish of the overall college football poll. I would mention it's somewhat interesting that Alabama is starting off all the way down at 5 as the third best team in the SEC. I would surmise that's probably the lowest Alabama has been in a preseason poll in almost 20 years. Certainly, I don't remember Alabama ever starting at 5 or lower after, year 2 of Nick Saban. I don't think that Alabama would have ever started off lower than that. So going all the way back to 2008 or so, I don't think the Crimson Tide have ever started off that low. Not that 5 is that low, but just in the context. Couple of other stories. Report is out there that Kamala Harris is going to pick either Josh Shapiro or Waltz as her next selected VP. And I wanted to give you guys the absolute latest odds on that as we are talking. Josh Shapiro, 68% chance. Tim Waltz, the governor of Minnesota, 29% chance. Basically, everybody else has dropped down further in that list. 68% live odds. Shapiro's going to be the pick. 30% live odds. Tim Waltz is going to be the pick. I think beyond I would be stunned. Let me just put it this way. I said as soon as Kamala was announced that she was going to be the Democrat, I said, you can go back and find the tweet, that Josh Shapiro, I would expect, would be her vice president based on the significance of Pennsylvania. There is no pathway to the White House that leads Kamala there without winning Pennsylvania. I said Josh Shapiro is going to be the pick, and I would still be stunned beyond belief if Josh Shapiro isn't the pick. So tomorrow we should find out. I shared a video that appeared to be leaked early of Josh Shapiro as the pick. I don't think it was unintentionally leaked. To me, that makes it very, very likely. A couple of other things. Joe Biden on Mount Rushmore per Nancy Pelosi. I was out to dinner with a buddy over the weekend who works in sports media. And I had a conversation with him. We were talking about the presidential election, politics compared to sports. And I actually used this as an example. I said, sports fans I like because they have more connection to reality. He said, what do you mean? I said, nobody would argue that Ryan Tannehill is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL as we begin the 2024 season. I don't even know if Tannehill's signed anywhere. And I'm not trying to pick at him. I just obviously know him well because he's been the quarterback for a while in my Tennessee Titans. In other words, you might say, hey, I think Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback. You might say Josh Allen. You might say, Joe Burrow. You might say Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert. Anyway, there's like 10 or 12 quarterbacks that a sports fan, you could argue, hey, you know what? Yeah, I can see that. And honestly, 10 is probably too much, 10 or 12. But you could argue those, and a sports fan would kind of nod along. No one would argue that Joe Biden, the equivalent quarterback of Joe Biden, is the best quarterback in the NFL. And in fact, if you argued it, everybody out there who's a sports fan would respect you less because they might disagree with you about who's going to win the Super Bowl or who the best players are. But there is a conception of reality that every sports fan has to deal with. You can't just argue something completely outlandish. Like, you couldn't be like, Trevor Siemian's the best quarterback in the NFL. Everybody would say, what, are you crazy? Like, everybody would look around and be like, I can't trust you. Are you married to Trevor Siemian? Is Trevor Siemian your son? Are you his agent? Politics, people say things like what Nancy Pelosi did all the time. And it's why I actually like sports so much better than politics personally, because there's way less BS in sports than there is in politics. Regardless of what team you root for, you can't come around and argue something that everybody else just kind of raises their eyebrows about. For instance, you couldn't say, I'm an SEC fan, right? Huge college football fan. Even a Florida Gator fan wouldn't be like, hey, I think Billy Napier's the best coach in college football right now. You're a diehard Florida Gator fan, you would never make that argument. That, to me, is like the equivalent of Nancy Pelosi saying, oh, Joe Biden should be on Mount Rushmore. Nancy, you just demanded that he not run for re-election. If he was one of the best presidents of all time, then there's no way that you would be arguing, hey, we can't have you run anymore. And I do think that is very interesting to compare sports and politics in that context. Finally, if you watched House of the Dragon Season 2, I didn't read any of the reviews before I went live. Evidently, a lot of people disagree with me and do not like the season of House of the Dragon. I thought it was great. I thought it set up a fantastic third season. I liked season 2. I get that a lot of people felt like they were left hanging. But, oh, by the way, that's kind of the point in general of a series ongoing, is that it leaves you wanting more. I thought season 2 was really good. I thought it set up season 3. I cannot wait for that one. I think the growth of House of the Dragon is going to be substantial as people catch up with season 1 and season 2 and get ready for season 3. All right. I love all of you. My name is Clay Travis. I'll be back live with you tomorrow. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. This has been OutKick, the show.